What's going on, everyone? How are you guys doing today? What I have for you today in this video is I want to talk to you guys about the rumor upcoming iPhone SE that is speculating to be released in early of 2018. So you guys are not aware of what the iPhone SE was. This was basically a phone that Apple had announced back in March of 2016, and the outer casing was actually the exact replica of the iPhone 5 and the 5S, but with the specs of an iPhone 6 at the time. So that was basically like Apple's budget iPhone, so that way for those that don't want to have like a massive screen on their phone and they just want it in a smaller size, the iPhone SE was a perfect choice for those that were still a fan of the smaller iPhone market. Now for 2018, it's rumored to be replaced. Now, what could the phone look like? Not entirely sure. I would imagine that since it's going to be the second generation of the SE, that there is no way Apple would implement the same hardware design as the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 10 right now. Mainly the iPhone 7, because I believe the iPhone 7 was the smaller iPhone compared to the 7 Plus and the iPhone 10 right now, or in this case, the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus. So if the SE is going to look a little bit different, I would imagine that the size increase would be very similar to those phones and not the Plus models, and definitely not the iPhone 10 for sure, unless if they wanted to keep the exact same design of the iPhone 5 and 5S, but put in the specs of an iPhone 7, then that is a possibility as well. From the article that I've read, which the link to that will be in the description below, was stating that there's no way Apple will include the same exact design from the iPhone 5 and 5S, because when the SE was released, it was declared that that design was outdated. However, people were still buying the phone because, first of all, not only was it cheap, but also it was a perfect design for those that want to stick with a smaller phone. So I would imagine, like, honestly, the phone would have to be a little bit bigger in terms of design, but it can't be drastically big. So they might make it about the same size as the 7 or the 8, or they can just make it slightly increase but not the exact dimensions. Now, as far as spec wise, well, unfortunately there weren't any reliable sources out there, so we're not entirely sure what could be contained inside this phone. However, there is a lot to do with the operating system that they could do to match the price points. For instance, we got like budget Android phones out there, and what's amazing is that some of these phones can offer a lot and almost about the same features that you would get in a $900 or $1,000 phone. Whereas the iPhone SE, when it was released, that it was basically Apple's downside version of a budget iPhone, and there wasn't much you can do with it. Now, problem could be because of iOS at the time, where there wasn't that many features that were being integrated compared to what you would get in modern smartphones these days. But I'm pretty sure that iOS 11 must have changed that somehow. Apple just has their own way of doing things compared to other manufacturers out there, and the way they do it, for some reason, it just seems unique, but at least it still attracts a lot of customers. One thing that Apple will have to keep in mind to compete with these budget phones is in terms of not only the specs, but what they can offer in the software as well. And in terms of the software, I think the only way they can do that is using their iOS operating system and integrate like revolutionary updates in their software. So as of now, what do I think the iPhone SE is going to come out to be for early next year? Well, obviously, I'm torn between the design, because Apple could try to get away with using the same design, or maybe they can make a complete new one, but just slightly bigger than what the iPhone SE is right now. That way people don't feel like the phone is too small, but it's not too big at the same time. And as far as software enhancements are concerned, I would imagine that they would try integrating about 95% of the features that are in iOS 11 onto the smaller platform, because sometimes some of those features in iOS 11 has to be utilized with a bigger screen. So I would imagine that whatever the screen size is going to be for the iPhone SE next year, whether they stay with a 4-inch display or maybe a slightly bigger display, that the features can't be utilized on that smaller screen, at least not all of them. And as far as spec wise, it's either going to be the specs of an iPhone 7 or the iPhone 8. So the specs may be similar between one of those phones over there, definitely not the Plus models for sure. But other than that, that's what I think the iPhone SE might come out to be for the next generation, and I'm curious to see what Apple has to throw at us. So what do you guys think the new iPhone SE or the upcoming iPhone SE is going to be like? Leave a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, rate, comment. Also check out the description below for my social media links, Twitter and Instagram. I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everybody.